33 years to the day after Etan Patz disappeared, an arrest was made. 51-year-old Pedro Hernandez, a former convenience store clerk, has confessed, according to police. So how could someone commit such a horrific crime and go on to lead a regular life? Let's ask criminal profiler Pat Brown. Pat, great to see you.
Good morning.
Pat, help us understand this personality. According to police reports, according to what they've told the media, this guy, Pedro Hernandez, had never met Etan Patz before. That day, he saw a 6-year-old heading to a bus stop, and he decided to lure him to a basement because he said he had the urge to kill him. What is that?
Well, it's one of two things. One is he's actually a child sex predator who then did something terrible to the little boy and then killed him afterwards, because that's what he'd have to probably do. And he just doesn't want to tell anybody about it because he doesn't want to admit that part. Or he's just lying about the whole thing and he really didn't do anything to the child at all.
But why can't he just be a sociopath who really did have that sort of unbridled urge that day?
Well, you know, we do see psychopaths enjoying killing, but usually when it's associated with a little child, there's usually a sexual component to it, but he just may not want to say that. So I just don't really believe that he just wanted to kill a child and that was it. I'm not quite sure I believe that.
And listen, I don't want to believe that. I mean, I don't want to believe that it's possible that somebody just has this overwhelming urge and then does something so heinous. But doesn't it surprise you that this guy Hernandez was then out of the spotlight for 33 years? Does that suggest he didn't do anything else to any children? And usually when there's a pedophile, they can't resist for 33 more years.
Well, you know, really, it is very, I don't really buy the story that that's all that would have happened if he really was guilty of the crime. And it doesn't mean he didn't commit other crimes. It just means he hasn't been caught. After all, if he did this one, he wasn't caught either, was he? So, I mean, I think just because 30 years has gone by doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. We know there's child predators who are caught and they're 50, 60 years old, and then they go back and find they've killed a dozen children, or, you know, and they just had no idea it was the guy.
Let's talk about his family for a second. There are media reports today that, in fact, he told them that he had done something terrible years ago in New York City. He even told them, "I killed a child." What is the psychology of family members who wouldn't turn him in?
Well, I don't know that they believed him, and I don't know that I believe him. At this point, I don't know they have any evidence that he is telling the truth. You know, you'll take any kind of crazy case which is big in the media, and you're going to have somebody crawl out of someplace and claim they killed the person. Remember, if you go back to JonBenet Ramsey, remember that crazy dude who showed up and said, "Oh yes, I did JonBenet Ramsey," and it wasn't him. Some people just like the attention, the drama around it. So if he's got problems, mental problems, schizophrenia, other things like that, it may be he just confessing to things he didn't do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they did. They just shrugged and said, I don't think so.
So his attorney, in fact, says that he is prone to hallucinations, both visual and auditory. What would convince you, Pat, that he is, in fact, the killer?
At this point, probably nothing, because I don't know. I heard that the police said he had information about the crime that no one else knew, and I don't know what that could possibly be. I absolutely don't know. I mean, there is no physical body. They don't have a crime scene anymore. So what could he tell them that's so unique that he couldn't have gotten it someplace else or even be fed the information? I just don't really buy it. I mean, they had this other suspect for all these years until they busted up that basement, and they were so sure, I think, that they were going to find that little boy's remains in that basement. They were going to arrest their original suspect. What happened? They came up with nothing. All of a sudden, out of the blue, oh, this guy confessed, he did it, he's got the information. I don't know. Don't know if I believe it, and I don't think it's going to hold up in court.
All right, we shall see what happens, obviously, in this case. Pat Brown, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. More Fox and Friends in just 2 minutes.